Indian, American Indian, First Peoples, Native American. There are many names to describe the original inhabitants of the United States. Can you think of any others? Now, picture a Native American. Who do you see? Do you see a buckskin-clad warrior astride a pink pony riding after a herd of buffalo? Did you picture Pocahontas, the quintessential Indian princess? Or Squanto? Did anyone picture a teenager, much like yourself, someone who just wants to fit in, someone who wants friends, someone who isn't quite sure where he belongs? If your idea of a Native American is a stereotypical image of a warrior living in a teepee, and you want to know what a contemporary Native American teen looks like, what he feels, and how he isn't that much different from yourself, then these 3 books are for you. The first book is Flight by Sherman Alexie. My name is this. I wake up and it takes me a little while to realize where I am. My new foster home. I've lived in 20 different foster homes. I've learned that there are 2 kinds of foster parents. The good but messy people who are trying to help kids, or the absolute welfare vultures who like to cash government checks every month. It's easy to tell what kind of people my latest foster parents are. Their real kids have new shoes. Foster kids are wearing crap shoes. I go into the bathroom and count my zips. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 47. The skin doctor tells me I have 6 months to live. I'm exaggerating. I don't have a skin doctor, and you can't actually die of zips. But you can die of shame. And trust me, my zip shame is killing me. I'm dying from about 99 kinds of shame. I'm ashamed of being 15 years old, and being tall, and skinny, and ugly. I'm ashamed that I look like a bag of zips tied to a broomstick. I wonder if loneliness causes acne. I wonder if being Indian causes acne. My father was an Indian, and my mother was white. Irish, I think. Yes, I'm Irish and Indian, which would be the coolest blend in the world if my parents were around to teach me how to be Irish and Indian. But they're not, and haven't been for years. So I'm not really Irish or Indian. I'm a blank sky, a human solar eclipse. I meet a white boy named Justice who teaches me how to use a gun and convinces me to shoot a bank. I go to the bank. I have the gun. I'm ready. But suddenly I'm gone. I'm not in the bank. Instead, I'm lying in a bed. A man is shaking me awake and he's calling me Hank. What is going on? Somehow, some way, I've time traveled back to the 1970s into another man's body. Then I'm transported to an Indian camp that's attacked by U.S. cavalry soldiers. Before I know it, I'm in a new body, an old man named Gus, who, ironically, is leading a group of soldiers to attack an Indian village. This happens again and again, until I end up in a body that looks strangely familiar. Until, finally, I close my eyes, open them, and realize I've returned to my body, and my ugly face, and my anger, and my loneliness. And then I think, maybe I never left my body at all. Maybe I never left this bank. Maybe I've been standing here for hours, minutes, seconds, trying to decide what I should do. Do I pull out my gun and shoot all these people? Do I shoot that little boy over there with his mother? He's maybe 5 years old. He has blue eyes and blonde hair. He's wearing good shoes, a jean jacket, khaki pants, blue shirt. He's beautiful. Beautiful little man. His mother, also blonde and blue-eyed, smiles down at him. She loves him. She sees me watching them. She smiles at me. For me. She wants me to know how much she loves her son. She's proud of the little guy. Does my mother love me like that? I hope so. I wave at the little boy. He waves back. I hate him for being loved so well. I want to be him. Close my eyes and try to step inside his body, but it doesn't work. I can't be him. I open my eyes. I think all the people in this bank are better than I am. They have better lives than I do. Or maybe they don't. Maybe we're all lonely. Maybe some of them also hurtle through time and see war. Maybe we're all in this together. Find out what this learns as he inhabits each of these bodies, and if he shoots up the bank, read Sherman Alexie's Life. The next book, The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, also by Sherman Alexie, doesn't have time travel, but it's full of humorous cartoons and laugh-out-loud writing about a boy named Junior. I was born with water on the brain. Okay, so that's not exactly true. I was actually born with too much cerebral spinal fluid inside my skull. But cerebral spinal fluid is just the doctor's fancy way of saying brain grease. My brain was drowning in grease. But that makes whole thing sound weirdo and funny, like my brain was a giant french fry. So it seems more serious and poetic to say, I was born with water on the brain. Okay, so maybe that's not a very serious way to say it either. Maybe the whole thing is weird and funny. But geez, did my mother and father and big sister and grandma and cousins and aunts and uncles think it was funny when the doctors cut open my little skull and sucked out all the extra water with some tiny vacuum? I was only 6 months old, and I was supposed to croak during the surgery. And even if I somehow survived the mini Hoover, I was supposed to suffer serious brain damage during the procedure and live the rest of my life as a vegetable. Well, I obviously survived the surgery. I wouldn't be writing this if I didn't. But I have all sorts of physical problems that are directly the result of my brain damage. First of all, I ended up having 42 teeth. The typical human has 32, right? But I had 42. 10 more than usual, 10 more than normal, 10 teeth half human. I went to get some teeth pulled, but the Indian Health Service funded major dental work only once a year. So I had to have all 10 extra teeth pulled in one day. I get headaches because my eyes are like enemies, like they used to be married to each other, but now they hate each other's guts. I started wearing glasses when I was 3, so I ran around the res looking like a 3-year-old grandpa. And my skull was enormous. Epic. So, I looked goofy on the outside, but it was the inside stuff that was the worst. First of all, I had seizures. At least 2 a week. So I was damaging my brain on a regular basis. But the thing is, I was having those seizures because I already had brain damage. Yep. Whenever I had a seizure, I was damaging my damage. I haven't had a seizure in 7 years, but the doctors tell me that I am susceptible to seizure activity. Susceptible to seizure activity. Doesn't that just roll off the tongue like poetry? I also had a stutter and a lisp. Or maybe I should say I had a stutter and a lisp. And if you're 14 years old like me and you're still stuttering and lisping, then you become the biggest retard in the world. Everybody on the res calls me retard about twice a day. They call me retard when they're pantsing me or stuffing my head in the toilet or just smacking me upside the head. I'm not even writing down the story the way I actually talk because I'd have to fill it with stutters and lisps, and then you'd be wondering why you're reading a story written by such a retard. Do you know what happens to retards on the res? We get beat up. At least once a month. Yep, I belong to the Black Eye of the Month Club. Sure, I want to go outside. Every kid wants to go outside. But it's safer to stay at home. So I mostly hang out alone in my bedroom and read books and draw cartoons. I draw all the time. When Junior decides to go to the white school 22 miles away, he faces new problems, new heartbreaks, and new embarrassments. But this doesn't get him down, and he makes friends along the way. Read the rest of Junior's story in Sherman Alexie's Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. If you like time travel or cartoons, then Flight and True Diary are for you. However, if you like the Beatles, then If I Ever Get Out of Here by Eric Gansworth is the young adult novel for you. Louis Blake has just started 7th grade when he meets George Haddonfield, whose father is in the Air Force. They bond over their mutual love for the Beatles. They spend hours listening to Beatles records at George's house. Since George invites Louis to his house, he expects to be invited to Louis's house. That's what friends do, right? But Louis has a secret about his life, when he doesn't want to share with George, when he's willing to lie about to protect. What's the secret? Louis is extremely poor and his house is falling apart. The walls are covered in plastic that stapled to the insulation. Part of the kitchen roof caved in a couple years ago, and now stray dogs sniff at the hole and sneak into the house. There's no running water. Instead, there's a pump out back. If Louis wants hot water, he has to bring it in from outside and heat it up on the stove. There's no indoor bathroom. Instead, there's a latrine out back. And Louis's mom doesn't have a car, so he has to hitch rides with people. George doesn't understand why he's never invited to Louis's house, and eventually stops talking about it. And when George starts dating a cute girl, their friendship is put on the back burner. After a while, they start hanging out again, and George invites Louis to go to a Paul McCartney concert in Toronto, an epic experience for Louis. But Louis still does not invite George over. Even when Louis gets a guitar for Christmas, he doesn't tell George because he's worried George will want to see it, and that would require him to come to the house. Partway into the school year, Louis is targeted by a bully named Evan. Every day, Evan hits him, and Louis tries to escape. The teachers refuse to do anything about the bullying, so Louis just stops coming to school. Eventually, the bullying stops, due in part to an intervention by George, who still doesn't know his secret. However, when the snowstorm of the century hits, the Haddonfields end up on Louis's doorstep. The one fear my ma had expressed when I started hanging around George had come true. He had come to our house, and there was no way to deny him entrance. He'd come, and we would be proven to live in the scandalously broken place we kept a secret from any white person we'd ever met. What should I do? I asked. She stood and smoothed her apron around her, then pushed some stray hairs behind her ears. What do you think? Will Louis's secret tear their friendship apart? Will Louis's first and only best friend abandon him because of a long-held secret? To find out how it ends, read If I Ever Get Out of Here by Eric Gansworth. Zitz, Junior, and Louis are just three young boys trying to find their place in the world. Zitz has bounced from foster home, confused about his identity with no strong adult figure. Junior is looked down upon by other tribal members, but when he decides to attend a white school, he finds just as much antagonism there, at least in the beginning. Louis is ashamed of where he lives and the life he leads on the reservation, but his friendship with George is real and affects his world in a life-changing way. Forget about the Indian warrior and instead enjoy the stories of these three young boys, stories which I'm sure you'll be able to relate to.